we're going to knock out creating a brand new semantic model from scratch inside of an existing Fabric workspace. So you have data that lives in Microsoft Fabric. It's been created by yourself or by a consulting company like Pragmatic Works, where we come in there and set up data pipelines, data notebooks, maybe some data flows to move data from some location into Fabric, into a lake house, maybe even a warehouse as well. And now you have all this data that's sitting here perfectly ready to utilize. Well, how do you actually report on it in a tool like Power BI? Well, here's where a semantic model comes into play. So here I am in a Fabric workspace, as you can see on screen. And in this workspace, it is just one that's called Fabric NIC. Pragmatic Works, we are a training and consulting company. So I have a lot of random pieces of data that I use for testing, doing stuff like this all the time, okay? So the data in here, it's not super clean. I have a lake house, I have a warehouse, I have multiple data flows, I have reports and semantic models and dashboards. I have all kinds of stuff in this workspace, but I think it's a good environment for you guys to see that just because a semantic model already exists, don't need to make new ones. It's a very common use case to make new ones. Multiple semantic models per lake house or warehouse is very normal. So in this case, at the top, don't worry about this little red error I have. It just means I haven't synchronized to Git for my CI/CD changes yet. Not a big deal. But if I want to create a new semantic model, I just go to the top left and select new item. I can click on new item and I could scroll down to find semantic model, which is right there. But I could also search on the top right for semantic model. So this way I could combine multiple different tables, build relationships, build DAX measures, build row level security. I can do all those things right here inside of Fabric in a semantic model. So when I clicked on semantic model, it's asking me, well, I have get data, OneLake catalog, Excel, CSV, what I want to do. Well, since I already have all my data that it lives in a lake house, I'm going to use a lake house for this example, I could just click on OneLake catalog. So I'm going to choose OneLake catalog, and I'm going to pick one of my many lake houses and warehouses that I have available to me. Just the one at the top will do just fine. AdventureWorks Lakehouse NL. I'm just going to choose this one and hit connect. I'm going to connect to an existing lake house. And now at the top, the first thing is saying, hey, name this, because this is an object that we are creating inside of my Fabric workspace, okay? So I'm going to call this my SM for semantic model, trying to hold on to some of these best practice here. AW sales data, I'm pulling AdventureWorks sales data in, and I'm just going to add a suffix of my initials on there, just because this is an example workspace, even though I'm really the only one that uses Fabric NIC. It's a good practice just in case anyone else wanted to come in here and make their own version of it. And, we're not conflicting there. So anyways, AW sales NL for my name, Nick Lee. And then I'm just going to choose a few tables here. Nothing crazy. I'm going to choose my date table. I'm going to choose my internet sales table. And I'm going to choose my customer table. So I'm going to hit confirm. I have those three tables ready to go. And this will just take a moment to build out a new semantic model. We are back up to speed exactly where we left off. And here are my tables that exist in a semantic model. Now, if you're used to using Power BI, this type of view from like a model view in Power BI should be quite familiar to you, where I need to build relationships and whatnot between these tables here. So I could go ahead and even start doing that. I could start knocking it out. So effectively speaking, my date table connected to internet sales table. I want to connect date to order date. In this case, even though there's multiple date types that exist in my internet sales table. So what I could do is I could go over to date and I could drag and drop it right to order date and see what it does. Now it automatically detected this is a one-to-many because my date table is first, which is the one side, and my internet sales table is the second, which is the many side. One-to-many cardinality, as you can see in this case. Single direction, make this relationship active, all the typical settings you would want to see. Now, there is one differing thing here, is that we don't see the preview of this table. Like if we're in Power BI, we would see at least a preview to make sure we're matching on the correct fields. Now, that is one of the things about doing relationships in a semantic model. You can't see that. You'd have to know those fields and make sure those were the correct ones, which you could just easily reference in your lakehouse itself. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save on this. And there we go. Voila. We have our one-to-many relationship. It looks great. It looks fantastic, I would say. Now I can even go over to my customer merge table. Let me rearrange some stuff a little bit here. And now I want to build a relationship from my customer table to internet sales, right? So I want to go to, okay, customer key to customer key looks good. All right, let's drag and drop. I'm just going to choose internet sales to drop it on customer merged. Looks good. Many to one. That's actually correct, right? So the many side is the fact table. The one side is the dimension table. The many side is listed first, so therefore it's called many to one. But I will say that when you're doing this, you need to be diligent, double check, because it's not always correct. Many times in Fabric, there is a percentage of time where I drag and drop just like this and it's completely wrong. It says one to many and it's like, it's supposed to be the opposite. It's supposed to be many to one. Or I've drag and dropped a one to many relationship and it said many to many. And I knew for a fact that it was a one to many because I know the data inside and out. So be diligent, double check the data, make sure it's building the relationships as you intend. Well, that said, I'm going to go ahead and hit save and see what happens here. Oh, we got an error. What is this error? This operation is not allowed because the data types of the relationship between internet sales customer key is a double and customer merge customer key is an int64, which is a whole number, not compatible for a relationship. Well, we need to fix that. So we could go to the lakehouse, make modifications on our pipelines or ingestion areas to get that data to show up properly. Maybe if it's in a warehouse, we could write some SQL to fix it, whatever it might be here. But in this case, we're going to do a quick Band-Aid fix on this just because I want to show you guys the capabilities of semantic model. So I'm going to hit cancel and I can click on my internet sales table, click on customer key, and I could go and see that the data type in the properties pane, just like you would see it in Power BI, I could switch this right here to whole number. Data type change. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes. Now, since I've changed it here in this semantic model, it's not going to go back and fix it in my lakehouse. It's going to only make that change right here in my semantic model, right? Just right here. So I made customer key a whole number. I just double check customer key from my customer table. It is also a whole number. Now, when I do a drag and drop, still many to one, which is correct because internet sales is first, customer second, hit save. Now I should no longer receive that error because we fixed the data typing. Next thing is well, what if there's more tables I want to bring in? You know, there are more tables that exist here in my model that, oh, you know what? In this model, I did want to bring in this table. Or, you know what? I actually don't need my customer table, whatever it might be. Well, you could simply go to the top of the screen and hit this edit tables button. If I hit edit tables, I could come back in here and change the tables that are actually being loaded to the semantic model. So I could uncheck my customer table if I didn't want to bring it anymore. But I could also go to something like my sales territory table, check the box for that one and hit confirm. And now it's just going to bring in that sales territory table into this model. Now that it's in here, I'm going to drag it over to the side and let's see here. Do we have a sales territory key in internet sales territory key in this one? Let's go ahead and pre-check those data types, whole number, decimal number. See what it caused us another issue. So I'm going to switch this to whole number because I know these sales territory keys are supposed to be whole numbers because I know this data quite well. So now that I've done that update, I could do another quick drag and drop, sales territory key to sales territory key. One side, many side, one side, many side looks good. Again, make sure you always double check this because it is often wrong. So just double check that. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now I have a new table in here. Now let's say, you already have this semantic model built and you want to load more tables into your lakehouse in here and you click this edit tables button and you don't see it. It's not populating. This is something that does happen pretty regularly in semantic models. You don't see those new tables that have just been added to your lakehouse or warehouse. Well, what you could do is on the top right, there's this little refresh button. If you click this refresh button, it's going to double check the lakehouse and warehouse to see if there's been anything new that's populated that's not stored in the cache right here. So in this case, I haven't added anything new, but I did the refresh and it would populate if that was the case. Also, sometimes I will do something like add a new column in a data warehouse. I might write some SQL that adds a new column to a table, or I might be in a lakehouse and modify the data flow that makes a new column in a table that gets sorted in my lakehouse, but that new column might not be showing up here in my semantic model. Well, to fix that type of issue, you could also just hit this refresh button on the top left. That's the purpose of this refresh button. If the table itself is changed in some capacity as far as the schema or whatnot goes, this refresh button will pull in that new information as well. You can also select transform data to modify tables and whatnot as you would something like Power BI. So you can load a Power Query. But look here, I hit transform data and there's no valid options. The reason why there's no valid options is because all of the tables that exist in this semantic model are utilizing the direct lake because it's connecting data to data that exists in a lake house. And that lake house data is not modifiable via this transform data. But let's say you pulled in some data from a lakehouse, and then you also pulled in an Excel file that you wanted to load in here into this semantic model. Then this Power Query option from transform data would be able to modify that Excel file or CSV file, whatever it is. So a lot of times the next step that I would do when creating a semantic model is fix up some of the naming conventions. As a quick example, right here in the semantic model, I could click internet sales and I could just go into the name of it in the property section, add a space and hit enter. This does not change the underlying data. It just changes it here in the semantic model. And my customer table and my sales territory tables have names that are a little bit messy. So I can even go in here and modify those. Just call this one customer. And lastly, I could go to my sales territory table, clean up the DBO dim, add a space, voila, all done. I can also change the name of columns and stuff like that here as well if I wanted to. Once the cleanup is done, a lot of times what I'll do next is start actually writing some calculations, right? Some of our tried and true measures. When we do virtual mentoring sessions, this is something that I go all the time. I help people with issues that they're stuck on. A lot of times the issue is making a new measure or modifying an existing one to make it work properly. But a lot of times I go into people's businesses' models and it is a mess. So what I like to do is guide people along the path of utilizing what I like to call a measures repository. Now, I have a YouTube video on this channel already that focuses all about building a measure repository and storing data in folders and keeping your stuff organized. We already have a video on that. I'm just going to do some highlights here. So if I wanted to add a measures repository, a lot of times what I'll do is instead of hitting new table, this creates a DAX calculated table. We don't want that. We don't really write calculated tables that often, guys. It's not really something that you would do. What I like to do instead is I'll go to get data. And once I click on get data, I'll search for blank and use a blank table. This is similar to that enter data option that exists in Power BI if you're used to that. And I'm just going to call this column like delete me. And I'm just going to put a number 1 in there just to have something in it. And the name of this tables is just going to be measures. All right. So I name it measures to have this little table that's only going to exist for the purposes of storing measures in it. And notice it's in Power Query. I could do Power Query changes here if I want. I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. It's going to load my measures repository to my semantic model. Just give that a moment here. Now I have my measures repository. Remember, measures repositories don't ever really get related to anything. They're just kind of this own standalone table that exists in the model. So if I scroll to the top, I named it underscore measures, which means it's going to populate at the top, but it still looks like a table. You know, a lot of times we want to make it look like a measures repository, which we'll get to in just a moment. But now with this measures repository, I could right click it and select new measure. This is how I do write measures all the time, is I'll just call this maybe total sales, just to do a quick measure here. And I'm just going to do the internet sum of the internet sales amount column. It's going to be stored in my measures repository. So now that it's in my measures repository, I have something in there that is a measure. I can now delete the delete me column that I just created. And I'm just going to hit delete from model. And you're going to notice the icon of the measures repository just changed. Now it's a stack of calculators. So what a measures repository looks like in Power BI and Fabric semantic models. So now I could just build measures in here. I could still select the measure that I just created and store it in folders. Like maybe I'll call this my internet sales display folder. Now this is stored in a folder, and I could create subfolders and measures that are for different things and different reasons, so on and so forth, right? So that's something that I could do there, but that's creating a repository. And the last thing I want to focus on this video, there are more things you could do here in this model. But the last thing I want to focus on is this manage roles button, because if you click that, you can now create and manage some role level security for your reports. So I could create this role. So if I hit new, I could create a new role, something like, I don't know, ST3, which is sales territory 3, which is like Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, something along those lines. And like, this is my role. And I could say, I want to create a new role based on the sales territory where the sales territory key column equal to number 3 and hit save. And now I'll have this role that I can actually assign security aspects to. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So now I have my sales territory 3 role set up. Now I can start assigning users and security groups to it. Okay. So that's all set up now. Now, no matter how many times this semantic model gets used for a report, this security settings are going to already be set up and have users and groups already assigned to it. We already have a lot more videos that go into role level security and creating roles and making them dynamic and better and whatnot. Just wanted to showcase that you still can make them here. Okay. So even I could go back to my workspace now and check out this semantic model from my workspace. So where's it at? I called it SM, AW Sales, NL. This is the one, right? I could click more options. I could go to security, and in security, I have my sales territory 3, Florida, Georgia, Alabama role. I can start assigning people to this, right? I could start adding my colleagues like Mitchell. I could even start adding entire security groups, like all the trainers at Pragmatic Works as an example. I could assign all those people here to this semantic model. So there could be 100 reports built off of this model. They will all always have this security system set up in place. I can also go back to my workspace again, go to my SM, AW Sales, NL. I could do a manual refresh or schedule refresh. Shouldn't be super important using this kind of direct link type of connection, but a lot of times that refresh button helps facilitate some new items that got created, some new metadata items. You can also, I could right from here do analyze in Excel. I could delete it. I could hit open semantic model that opens it right away, view the lineage. I could do all these different things right here. And again, I'm in viewing mode. If I'm in viewing mode, what I could do, because I'm accessing this after it's been created. If you go all the way to the top right, if you need to make any modifications, like even adding new measures, click the viewing drop down, switch it to editing. And now we're right back where we left off, where you can start making changes, updates, removals, whatever you need to do to this semantic model itself. That is going to wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This type of model is something that we do all the time. So much work that we put into getting our Fabric data spaces set up for success that a lot of times this is kind of that finishing touch before you start building reports, is getting a proper semantic model set up. And that's exactly what we did here. So I hope that was helpful to you. Again, my name is Nick Lee, and it was a pleasure, and I'll see you on the next video.